This is the new Audi e-Tron GT, Audi's flagship car. And I am driving it for the first time. This is essentially a world first drive of the car. This is a very important car for me and for Audi. Welcome to the Late Break Show. And that's flat out. Wow. Apparently we were going to be driving it in LA, but today you have to settle for MK, which is quite a dreary, boring town at the best of times. However, I've come to the rapid charge point, not because it actually needs to charge, because it doesn't, it's still pretty full, but we've only got a couple of hours with the car. It's raining, I needed a bit of cover, so we've come here to the rapid charge hub. So remember, this is Audi's flagship car, bar none, so it has to look good, and I think it looks absolutely stunning. Those pronounced haunches over the front and the rear arches just look amazing. There's a real huge concave bonnet. It is actually a very large bonnet, but proportionally it does look pretty similar to the Taycan. What I would say is the front end looks more conventional than the Taycan because it has still got the remnants of a grille, albeit this is actually filled in. There's a couple of active ducts and you can see the radar and the cameras and stuff down there. I actually think it's probably the best Audi grille I've seen in years, because the Audi grille's got a bit trapezoidal and out of control, but this, I think this looks pretty special. It is 0.4 coefficient in terms of aerodynamics, which is not quite as good as a Taycan. That's 0.22, and I had a look at the Tesla Model S Plaid edition, and that's 0.20. So the Tesla's actually more aerodynamic than this shape, the GT and the Taycan. Similar lights actually to a lot of other Audis, RS Audis out there at the moment, I think. The SQ8 being one of them. The front and rear lights remind me of that, which is no bad thing, because I think it's a terrific looking car. Active aero look, real holes that let air in and out on these gills here. Look at these rear light clusters, they're amazing. And the design of the lights, like I said before, is similar to this sort of circuitry idea that Audi have used on a couple of their other current models. We'll show you some much better shots that are in aspirational surroundings, not in pissy Milton Keynes on a grey day. I've got 2 hours with this bloody car, which is not long enough, unfortunately, but I'll take what I can. Right, stick it in dynamic mode. Yeah, and let's see how it feels. Milton Keynes, luckily, is blessed with many roundabouts. Many roundabouts. So let's see how well it grips a roundabout. Gosh, that is really, really good. 30, 32, 33 miles an hour around a roundabout, and it's not giving up. This is on optional 21s. The wheels start at 20-inch size. So no, this isn't Audi's first EV, as I said before. If you've watched previous reviews I've done the Audi e-Tron SUV, the e-Tron Sportback, which is the more kind of coupe-like SUV, and now we've got this. And this is supposed to be a sporty saloon, which is exactly what it is, really. The side profile reminds me of the Fisker Karma, an EV that was way before its time, that came out almost 10 years ago now. If you have a look at the Fisker Karma, I'll put a picture up. I think the side profile reminds me of that, which I thought was a cool car. I think these arches and these creases are some of the best that I've seen on an Audi in years. I think they've absolutely nailed the shape. I think it looks wonderful. In fact, I've got a quote here. Audi's head of design, Mark Lichter, said it's his career highlight. He's proud of this car because you can put the battery pack in the floor and be free with the design. He thinks it's the best car he's ever designed. I think it's one of the best looking Audis, piston or otherwise. But these haunches are the best. That bow out over such a wide track, both at the front and especially at the back. You've got these very, very Taycan 911-esque haunches over here, and this crease, this concave area of the door. One ends there, then a crease starts below it there. Wow, it's a good looking thing. It's a very good looking thing. And there, that torque that you can just dip in and out of, and that wide track, I can definitely feel the grip, is fantastic. Interesting that Audi have gone for a mechanical locking diff in the back. Although it says the setup with, you know, kind of drive-by-wire quattro that this has, compared to all of its piston cars, 5 times quicker at reacting to different grip situations than normal stuff. Amazing, isn't it? So I've got some drive modes down here, and if I click it into, there you go, efficiency mode, that apparently decouples one of the axles and makes it a more efficient two-wheel drive car until it senses traction loss or something like that. Then I've got comfort mode and dynamic mode and individual. And individual you can tailor it a bit. Dynamic's the most hardcore. Wow. So on the dials here you've got your percentage of energy that you're using. So when I gun it, you can see it's using, that's 50%, 70, 100. Throttle response is amazing in dynamic mode. You can buy a carbon edition. The Vorsprung carbon adds lots of different carbon fibre to the in and outside. So it has a carbon roof instead of a panoramic roof, which saves 12 kilos. I'm not particularly down with loads of carbon fibre on a car which is blatantly over 2 tons. It doesn't really make any sense to me. I get it on race cars that are trying to be light. I don't think this is trying to be light at 2200 kilos. This isn't light, the Tesla Model S isn't light, and the Taycan isn't very, very light either. That's not really the point here. It comes down to drivability. Adaptive air suspension on this is an option. This has it because I've just noticed there's a button somewhere around here where I can raise and lift the suspension if I want to. There's a Ford Focus RS and a Hyundai, is that an i30N? Both pretty quick cars. I'm wondering whether the suspension, I mean I've got it in dynamic mode, but when I set it into normal, which I think is comfort mode, it doesn't feel significantly softer or anything like that than the Taycan to me. But I'm only driving it on pretty smooth urban roads today. There's no mountain roads for me, I'm afraid. This is a very, very quick test. It does feel very, very stable. Of course, all the weight, although it's about 2200 kilos, all the weight's low as you'd expect to be with most EVs, right on the floor. Oh, battery, obviously, bespoke platform, the same as the Taycan. Batteries all sit down in there. The battery pack is exactly the same as the Taycan, 93.4 kilowatt hours, which is 85.2 kilowatt hours usable energy. This is good, isn't it? By complete coincidence, where we were filming, a Taycan's turned up at the Ionity rapid charging unit. So this is your best hope of rapid charging when you don't own a Tesla. And manufacturers have all kind of invested in this. They can both charge up to 270 kilowatts. Very rarely will you find that, but that's the theory. That's also great, but you can see now together, these are kindred spirits, these cars. It's so similar to the Taycan. I do wonder who's going to win and who's going to lose. Are they competing with themselves? I personally prefer, I think, the front end of the Taycan and possibly the back end, but side profile on this looks better with those creases. It's a great looking car. Is the Porsche badge more desirable than the Audi badge? To me, yes. Although I have to say, quite a lot of people now, I think Audi's become such a luxury brand. They're set up to be drivers' cars. They get big brakes as standard. The higher ranking models of this have four-wheel steering, rear steering, and it has a 2-speed gear in the back axle, just the same as a Taycan, but it only uses first gear on launch control. Otherwise it just uses second gear all the time. So 530 PS in boost mode for this, 646 PS if I had the RS version. Boost mode is launch control, 2.5 seconds of all the power you want. Left foot on the brake, right foot on the throttle, count to 3. Which is nice and repeatable and nice. In a previous life, I got to drive the launch, the pre-production Porsche Taycan Turbo S, and experienced that repeatable launch control which this shares. Yeah, this is quick. I know that Tesla say with the Plaid, the Model S Plaid, that has that repeatability as well. So we're in an exciting time now, people, where if you want performance EVs, all-round performing EVs, not just 0 to 60 kind of dragsters, there's a few decent products about now. What I would say is, if you're thinking of buying this, the natural rivals have to be the Taycan, which starts cheaper in rear-wheel drive form, but then you've got the Tesla Model S Plaid edition, which is probably the most attractive Tesla I've seen. I think it actually finally looks pretty good. And if I look at the spec of that car, it does 100 more miles claimed than this does. And it does way quicker 0 to 62, almost half, does 200 miles an hour. And if you buy the long range one, that still is quicker 0 to 62 than this, with over 400 claimed miles. So I mean, Tesla is still the ones to beat, right? Yeah, they really are. Let's take this for a drive though. We ain't got time. I've got to give this back in 45 minutes. So we've got 45 minutes to drive the car. Let's just get in that leather-free. I still haven't worked out how to pop the bonnet. I'll have to work that out in a minute. Let's get in the leather-free zone. I think this is a fantastic looking car. It doesn't necessarily look electric, but it does look futuristic. And I know the Audi design language turns a lot of people on. And the RS version, this is not the RS version, and to me this feels very RS-like in terms of the pedal, the braking, the cornering, the look. Even though it isn't an RS model, it's going to be launched at exactly the same time as an RS model, which will have more black parts of the design and look a bit even more aggressive. Interesting that the RS version is about 110 grand, and the entry-level version, which is the one I'm driving today, is actually more expensive than the entry-level Taycan. So the Taycan rear-wheel drive starts at £70,500. This starts at £79,000. As I said before, I don't think they're going to make a rear-wheel drive GT because it's Quattro. And the whole point of Quattro is that it's four-wheel drive, twin motors. I won't be able to drive the RS yet, and the RS is actually Audi's most powerful car ever, regardless of pistons or electrons. 646 PS in boost mode will be the RS e-Tron GT. This version, just the normal e-Tron GT, 530 PS with boost mode, which is sort of your 2.5 seconds of smash if you want it on launch control. So it's not slow, limited to 155. Top speed doesn't really bother me anymore. I mean, if anything will do 100 now, that's all you really need. It's more about the responsiveness and the feel of it. It's a big car, nearly 5 meters. I'll put the dimensions for this on screen compared to like the Taycan, for example, but basically this is ever so slightly longer, they're the same width, and the Taycan's ever so slightly lower in height. Oh, let's get inside the back end. Right, back of the e-Tron GT. Solid seats, which are great when you're in the front. When you're in the back there, I find them a little bit kind of overwhelming. Frameless doors, so obviously meets it's very coupe and sports-like. Legroom, I'm sat behind myself. It's okay. There's some quite sculpted parts of the seat, so that's good. It's not a flat floor car. There's quite a pronounced trans tunnel. It is a 5-seater, but I like the Taycan. I don't know who would sit in the middle here. It's sculpted for 2 people at the back. The one in the middle is proper token. So I would consider it a 4-seater or a 5 as an absolute emergency. Pano roof, headroom's absolutely fine. Dash from here looks brilliant. And I have to point out, this is got the leather-free option, as they call it. It's kind of like a grey quality tweed, which I do like very much, with more kind of circuitry style stitching, which emulates those lights, the light design. You buy Audis for the interiors, and it feels very conventional in terms of all the other Audis that are out at the moment, which is a good thing because Audi interiors are always very modern. I think that the cabin is, as you'd expect for an Audi, it's pretty impressive, but it doesn't seem sort of EV specific. The screen is set into the dash, moulded as part of it. It's not sort of pronounced like the Mackie or anything like that, which seems to be the fashion. This is all quite conventional, the binnacle, the digital readout, which I've seen on lots of other Audis, I think. I'm sure that wood is fake. I don't really mind, but I'm sure it's fake. I've looked closely at it. It feels, in the same way actually, that feels a bit, you know, nah. And the texture of this sort of faux leather on the top feels a bit weird, yet the Alcantara here, the steering wheel feels amazing. Centre console's got space for a key, which is where I've put it. Then you've got your little shifter down here, which is just a nodule that slides to and fro with a no handbrake. You press park and the handbrake automatically activates. Oh no, I've got to give this car back. I've got 3 minutes to get back. Right, set the sat nav, haptic buttons. I like the screen that's neatly recessed. Make a U-turn. I will, don't you worry about that. You do your thing, I'll do mine. It's got one of those noise modules in it, really similar to the Taycan, and I remember it was a very memorable time when I drove a very early, like a pre-production Taycan. Felt special, sounded special. I like the sound it makes. I quite like the fact that it isn't silent. I believe this is a 405 litre boot on the GT. Sorry, there's a net here with your charging gear in. Oh yeah, and a little false floor. Not a big boot lid, very similar to the Taycan in that respect. In fact, it's about 2 litres smaller than a Taycan, I think. So basically Taycan. And I think there's a front boot as well, a fruit frunk thing. So we'll have a look in there. You don't buy this car for that. And actually I should point out while we're at the back with its active aero spoiler, Porsche have announced they're going to do a Sport Turismo Taycan, this sort of shooting brake estate. Audi has said so far that they're not going to do something like that, but it would be weird if they don't, given they're so famous for doing RS Avance fast estates. So I can see them definitely doing that. There is an 81 litre fruit front boot, front bottom. I haven't been able to actually work out where the button or the lever is to activate it. I can't blimmin' find it. I haven't got enough time to hang around. I've been driving it a bit heavy-footedly. I'm getting 2 miles per kilowatt hour, which is bad. Mind you, I drove here as carefully as I possibly could in an electric Corsa, and I got 2.9 miles per kilowatt hour. So, but if I was to stick it into efficiency mode, throttle's nice and soft. It probably decouples a motor, but I would never know that. Really, having a fast EV is all well and good. You just need to be able to charge it easily and more regularly, because if you do use all that power, obviously you're not hypermiling, you're not being as efficient as you could be. I got in it and it was fully charged. It had 268 miles. The WLTP on this is predicted to be 295 miles, so low compared to a Tesla. Tesla has the advantage in terms of charging infrastructure. We know that. We also know that the Model S is quite an old model now, so it's been out a while and they've developed it. And the Plaid edition, the triple motor 1020 horsepower version is pretty impressive. Charging infrastructure on non-Teslas is obviously a bone of contention, although that they are about and they are growing. Having a home charger is absolutely key to that, the success of it. 11 kilowatts, you'll be charging the car in 9 hours. 22 kilowatts, you'll be charging it in 4.5 hours. And I think you can rapid charge it at 270 kilowatts, like 0 to 80% in something like 25 minutes. Now, of course, when you're buying one of these or a Taycan, you have to consider fast charging, and that's why Ionity are your fastest hope of rapid charging. I'm still not sure whether I like the position of the charge port being kind of not quite at the front and not quite at the back, but if you've got a long enough cable, you'll be all right. What I do like is its chassis, this J1 platform that's shared with the Taycan. I mean, it hides that weight very, very well, and it's an enjoyable car to drive, even around Milton Keynes. Again, even with the paddles dialing up the regen isn't really making itself known. It's actually quite subtle, especially compared to a lot of other EVs I've driven. I quite like an aggressive kind of one pedal driving, but I remember from the Taycan launch, they didn't want that kind of a feeling. They wanted drivers to experience, still use the brake pedal, and it could modulate the charge from the brake pedal rather than coming off the throttle. So it's two pedal driving very much. You can hear the sound module working away. Remember, you don't buy an EV like this or a Taycan or a Model S Plaid if you're looking for sheer efficiency, really, because this is about a sporting experience. It's immediately a compromised car. You know, it allegedly seats 5, I'd say it seats 4.5, and the boot's quite kind of shallow. So no, it's not as practical as other EVs, and it's probably not as practical as the Model S actually in terms of a body shape, but it looks good, doesn't it? It looks good. I honestly think that this car looks amazing, even though you've got no idea what it's propelled by. Okay, it's got a rear diffuser that you notice doesn't have exhausts that are visible, and it's a sporty looking car. However, I do think that people are just going to love the way it looks, regardless of the fact that it's EV. And that's the way it should be for me. I like that about it. Yeah, I should have given it back 3 minutes ago. And they were really strict. 2 hours with the new e-Tron GT, and that is it. It's not a lot of time. It's not a lot of time to properly digest all the millions of euros which has been pumped into R&D. So what do I think then? Well, this tiny little taste of the GT that I've had, I think it's fantastic. I think its biggest problem is with so many non-Teslas is convincing people to buy a fantastic, good all-round EV which you can find public charging for, because that is the hardest bit, and that really isn't the manufacturer's fault actually. Manufacturers are making a good product. I'm interested to see what people who would normally buy an Audi RS6 would be like when we put them in the RS version of this. I can't wait to drive the RS version. While I'm waiting for the traffic on this blimmin' drizzly dull day, I want to say thank you ever so much to everyone who already subscribes to the Late Break Show. If you don't, I would love you to subscribe and click the bell icon, then you'll be notified to when I bring a new video out, which is every week, and you'll get everything from brand new EV and piston stuff to classic stuff, modified things, resto mods and projects. Thanks for watching.